We're inside of the Africa Forum. It's Running African. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you very much, DJ Talia. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, my name is Kabu Ma'at Kiru. You knew me as Andrew Williams. And as we have been saying, giving you some time to get used to the new name. Working out our headphones. Working out our headphone situation. All right, so we've got it going. We've got it going. All right, so let's do this properly. Good morning to you once again, Hotep. Welcome. You're inside of the Africa Forum, Running African. I'm Kabu Mahat Keru, and we're going through until 10 o'clock. That's when the big A comes in with the Sunday sunshine. Thanks once again to Talia Walker. All right, Simone Brown Keys, my production assistant for the first part of the morning. And it's going to be a changeover, I know, somewhere along the line. I will tell you who in a little while. 10 minutes after 6 o'clock. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. Thank you for joining us on the 107s. 107.1 all the way to 107.9. Thank you for joining us on the internet at iriafm.net across the world, across the many, many continents. Thank you very much. Thank you, my sister Aldith Hunkar, who's listening in the Netherlands. Good morning to you. If you're tuned in from the continent of Africa, hey, Prime Z, good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for logging in. And if you've tuned in from Europe, hey, good morning, welcome. And for those in the Caribbean and especially on the ground here in Jamaica on the 107s. If you're on your BlackBerry, your iPhone, your Android apps, good morning, welcome to Irie FM. Welcome to the Africa Forum, Running African. Thank you very much for joining us wherever you are. All right, so we've had to change our program a bit this morning, and it's not because we've got a special program lined up. As you might have known, and as if you've been listening all week and checking out the news, you would have known by now that our CEO and Managing Director, Chad Young, has transcended at the age of 27. A young man who we worked very, very closely with over the last 4 years, especially since the death of his own father, Carl Young. So we have been dealing with that and continue to deal with that. We understand the transition. We understand how this works. We come and we go like smoke through sieve. Question is that if we recognize ourselves and each other as we come again. So we do understand that. It doesn't stop the grief. It doesn't stop the process of mourning. As a matter of fact, the process of mourning is very natural, and we are going through that on many, many different levels, understanding ourselves in that process. As a result of that, one of the things that we have done is that we've cancelled a very, 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 very packed program for this morning, and we're just going to be taking things easy as we ourselves, as I myself, process the grief and this mourning that we're going through. At the same time, we are giving thanks for the brief moment that he shared with us, as I said, in this transition, 27 years. So we give thanks to the ancestors for that. We give thanks to the universe for that, for sending him as Chad Young when they did, and for sending someone who has made such a difference in not just the media landscape, not just the media environment, but someone who has made such a difference in so many lives. So we mourn him and we miss our brother. but at the same time, we do understand the transition, and we understand that we do come and we do go. Someone that I personally worked very, very, very closely with because I reported directly to him. And so we've had many conversations over the years, working out many of the creative processes here at IRFM, talking them through, going and coming, backing and forthing with a lot of them. And I chuckle just now because we've had some times, Chad and myself, as we try to outdo each other as to why the thing should happen or why the thing should not happen. And usually we always do come to a compromise on both sides, and that was one of the more commendable things about him is that he listened and listened to good points and bad points, and at some place in all of those conversations making the necessary compromise. We love that about him, that you could talk him through the processes and he would talk you back through why. Why should we or why shouldn't we? And sometimes some of those conversations went on for weeks as to why we should or why we shouldn't. But we miss our brother and we love our brother. And so we're going through that. We're going through that process. I've known him personally since he was a child, and this is not a joke. I came to IRFM before IRFM started broadcasting live on air, so that at that time he was a mere child, just a baby, really. And one of his first interviews on radio as a young child was an interview, his first interview, and as far as I know, his only full-length interview that is going over more than half an hour, more than 10 minutes, more than 15 minutes, was conducted when he was still a child. And I conducted that interview. And what I did was to just get him. I spoke to his dad about, let us hear the children's perspective on some of the issues that we as adults have been talking about on the radio. And we were talking about economics and human sexuality, how you talk to your children about sex. And we were talking about issues to do with social issues, but at the child level. And we had that conversation on air with Chad and other children who were in the vicinity. There were, I know Barbara Blake Hanna. Barbara, if you're listening, you'll recall that your own son was part of that conversation. And Elaine Thompson, E.T., who is now a radio presenter in Canada. Her daughter, Candice, was also, so Makona and Candice. And Chad, who sat down as very, very bright children and gave their strong opinions about, politics and economics and social issues and sexual issues at the child level. And that was really a groundbreaking conversation with those young children. Chad at the time could not have been more than 7. All right, so, that's going back to childhood. Well, he's been the CEO and managing director of IRFM since 2010, and has been he's been in the process of guiding IRFM into a more digitally, technologically savvy era. And he's set a very good groundwork with that. His father started that, and he's took it to a whole other level. And that continues, because one of the things that you also did was to put people in place who could carry on that work. So that we look forward to continuing the work that he started here on the ground at IRFM, and continuing the leading presence that we have, maintaining that leading presence that we have here on the ground in Jamaica, and for that matter in the Caribbean and globally, so that we continue that. In the meantime, though, as I said, we are still in the process. Bear with us, because we are grieving. We are mourning. That is happening here at IRFM, and it's no use saying that we're not. Yes, we are. So that is all part and parcel of how we move ahead. So it's going to be a mismatch as Hugh Masakela would say, a pitch-patch mismatch ad hoc series this morning of program. But we're going to be doing this, and we're taking you through until 10 o'clock. One of the things that you might get this morning also is some repeat programs that you've been asking for. We'll probably rebroadcast some of those along the way. But we're playing it by ear, and we're going through until 10. Lots and lots happening in the world, and they continue to do something about us, without us, whether they're doing it at the Jamaica Observer or whether they're doing it in politics. They're doing something about us, without us. And that's one of the bane that we have to face. The bane of our existence is those who hold power, whatever kind of power that you hold, continue to do something about us, without us. We have been victims of that in recent days, especially since the passing of our CEO. So that, to the Jamaica Observer and others, yes, if you've got questions, no, nothing wrong with going ahead and talking to those who have been here since, the beginning, and who are no longer here and have been out of the system for a very, very long time. But good journalism require that you also, and dictates that you also talk to those who are on the ground, and they're not so hard to find. I myself do not give interviews, but I do know that there are people here who represent the voice of IRFM. So balance that for us, please. There are people who are willing and ready to talk to the media about some of the issues affecting IRFM as a result of the passing of our CEO, and to talk about where we are. I might not give you a lot of details. We're confident of where we are. So they do continue to do something about us, without us. This would make, if I were teaching, say, in Karimak or one of the journalism media schools in Jamaica, I would take yesterday's Observer and I'd take it to the class and say, what's wrong with this story? Because something is wrong with that story. What's wrong with that story is that you have spoken to people who have left here for a very long time, who are very good friends of mine, by the way, but they've been out of the system for a very, very long time. We blame them not. They gave the interview and they did good interviews. But you need to balance that, Mr. Jamaica Observer and Miss Jamaica Observer, by talking to persons here on the ground also at IRFM. And there are many. If you want me to refer you to those people, I can. All right, we've got lots and lots to do inside of the program. As I said before, it's going to be hodgepodge, but we're going through with that, and we go through until 10. We want to know what's happening at Pinnacle. We want to know what's happening with Pinnacle. It seems to me as if in recent times, Pinnacle, has kind of, and we didn't expect that to be in the news for a very, 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 very long time. But it's really off the front pages now. It's out of the news now. And we'd really like to know what's happening with Pinnacle. The Prime Minister recently shifted the matter to the Ministry of Land and the Environment. And, we said at the time that it was a smoke screen. We still do believe it's a smoke screen. We hope that it has not silenced. We hope that it has not silenced the voices who are calling for some kind of action to be taken regarding the preservation of Pinnacle as a heritage site. So that we still want to know what's happening there. Denisha Prendergast, somebody let me know, please, what's happening at Pinnacle. Is Occupy Pinnacle, this is the second day of March, is Occupy Pinnacle still going on? Is the occupation still there? We got distracted last week because we're going through that process. But can somebody give us some idea as to what's happening at Pinnacle? We'll be very, very interested in that. We want to know if there's been any meeting with the people at the Land Ministry. We want to know if A meeting has been called. If the relevant persons have been contacted, what is the follow-up? Is sending this to the Ministry of Land and the Environment, basically just sending this to file 13. Is this a way of silencing the voices? Is the construction, the development still happening at Pinnacle? How many lots have now been identified? What is going to happen? What is the situation with Pinnacle? What is the situation with Pinnacle? Please, we need to know. Just want to say thanks to all those persons who turned out to the event in Westmoreland, the tribute to Peter Tosh, last week Sunday, or last weekend for that matter, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. It was a wonderful time. I'm telling you, we really had a beautiful time in Westmoreland. The turnout, let me just say thanks to you who turned out from all across Jamaica. Thank you very much. Thanks to the people of Westmoreland. Thanks to the people of St. James. Thanks to you in Trelawney. Thanks to you in St. Anne. Thanks to you in St. Mary. Thanks to the people in Portland. Thanks to the people in St. Thomas, in Clarendon, in St. Elizabeth, St. Andrew, Kingston. Hope I didn't leave Hanover. Thank you very much from the 14 parishes across Jamaica who made your way to the Peter Tosh estate, who made your way to Westmoreland last week, and you really did come in your numbers. What a turnout. It was a beautiful day in Westmoreland last week. Let me just say a very special thank you to the Peter Tosh estate, Dave Tosh and the team, Royal King and the team, to Niambe and the team, the children and grandchildren of Peter Tosh. Thanks to all those who came out to perform. Thanks to those who came out to be part as a patron. Thanks to those who came out because you were manning your stalls. Thank you very much. We had a wonderful time. And I know one of the things that we should be proud of is that we paid tribute to and celebrated the life and works of someone who is so deserving of that, who's been in Jamaica kind of last for many years in our consciousness. But you know, whether something happened yesterday, or it happened 55 years ago, or it happened 70 years ago, or it happened 70 centuries ago, it occupies the very same space in our consciousness. And that is why, even for us, the idea of reparation is as emotional as it is for many of us, because slavery and the enslavement of Africans, the enslavement of our ancestors is the enslavement of ourselves. It occupies the very same space in our consciousness as what I just said about our CEO Chad. Do you understand? Because consciousness is what it is. And so that the experience of slavery, as long as we're talking about it and as long as we've recalled it, it occupies that very same space in our consciousness as now. And so that we feel very strongly about the need for this damage to be repaired, and we know someone is responsible. So we feel the pain of our ancestors. We are our ancestors. There's no, and that's an argument that I make for reparations. But and it's good for me because I'm not standing up and talking, you know, in spaces and places where people want proof. For me, proof is not necessary. Proof is a pain I feel because my ancestors have been enslaved. Proof is a pain I experience in that space in my consciousness, because that is how consciousness operates. So too, we know we are the builders of the pyramids, and we know that slavery was an interruption. We still want that damage repaired, and it occupies that very same space in our consciousness. And that is why when we look at what's happening in Egypt now, and those who are responsible for destroying that which we build, we are angry. It's a different kind of consciousness that we're generating. It's a different kind of response to that consciousness. Because we know we know we are our ancestors. I said before, we come and we go, it's like smoke through sieve. And if coming again, we could recognize ourselves. What a difference. All right. And it's good too if we recognize each other as we come and we go. Because one of the things about that recognition process is that we know our enemies. It's important to know your enemies because they've been with you from the beginning and they come and they go too, So when they come in this time and you say, my spirit can't take you, it is what it is, it's just a spirit thing. All right, and nothing can change that because that is spirit. So then, we're going to be trying to get some information from somebody who can tell us about Pinnacle, and my production assistant this morning, Simone Brown-Keys, is working on that, so we'll tell you if we come up with anything there. What's happening in the Ukraine? Now listen, we're witnessing the playing out and the emergence of a Cold War that had never died between Russia and the United States. Why this is important to us is because, as before, that Cold War between Russia and the United States is bound to impact every single Caribbean country, especially with the militarization now of the Caribbean waters through the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative. For us, and for me in particular, a lot of what we're going to be involved in and a lot of what we're going to be called upon to do in the next few years by the U.S. and by the Western powers will hinge heavily on what we have signed in terms of a Caribbean Basin Security Initiative. So there's a Cold War the Cold War that never really died has now returned, resurfaced through the Ukraine. So this is a Cold War of no simple proportion that's happening between the U.S. and the United and Russia. We understand that yesterday the two prime ministers, that Putin and Obama, had a telephone conversation. That Obama made that call. I'm not too au fait with the whole situation, but I know I saw that peripherally. But we know also that this was brewing, and it's not just about about Ukraine. Remember China. China had said earlier, and China, a close friend of Russia, had said earlier that they had noticed that in wherever China was in terms of military might, whether it's on the ground or the waters, marine or so on, that the U.S. was amassing its own military might just across the stream, and that was a worry, what that might mean later on. So China has been talking about this, and Russia is a friend of China, right? So we've been watching this new Cold War between Russia and the U.S. as a result of Russia's relationship with China, about how they voted at the UN, etc., and about what's happening internationally on the seas. And now the Ukraine is a whole other matter. So that we're watching that Cold War. A Russian ship just kind of sashayed into the Caribbean waters last week and just kind of parked in Cuba without fanfare. And if that isn't a show and a return of a military might, to say, is that thumbing your nose literally at the U.S. to say, well, yeah, so you're doing that in the Ukraine. This is how we respond. Here's our military ship, and we're going to just come through the Caribbean waters that you've militarized, and we're just going to park it right here on the coast of Cuba. We ain't going to do nothing. We're just going to stand here for a while and then return to Russia. It's not as simple as we're making it sound, but it is what it is. All right, so my new production assistant now is Jody. So thank you very much, Jody. All right, so we're going to take a quick break.
The essence of power is the ability to define someone's reality and have them live according to that definition as though it is a definition of their own choosing.
All right, as we return to the Africa Forum, I'm going to go now to the phone lines where Denisha Prendergast is standing by. Want to just get a quick update on the Pinnacle situation. I think this is something that we have to keep on top of. We have to ensure that we see this through to the ongoing conclusions, because this is going to be happening for a while. Denisha, my sister Hotep, good morning.
Greetings, Andrew. How are you doing?
I am well, you?
I'm doing all right, giving thanks for this beautiful day that give us.
All right, give thanks, Denisha. I just want a quick update from you. You have been one of the leaders of the Occupy Pinnacle movement here in Jamaica, and recently we've heard that the issue was sent to the Ministry of Land and the Environment, and but the occupation was still continuing. So my question to you now is, where are we now with the issue of making Pinnacle a proper heritage site for the to Rastafari?
Well, today, Andrea, makes 31 days since we've been physically occupying Pinnacle. Looking forward to the government and all of their agencies to come forward and do the work that they had promised. However, up until this point, Andrea, I don't have much of an update for you regarding the government's intervention from the last time we spoke. There is a proposed meeting. I see an email coming that there's a meeting set for, I think it is Tuesday of this week. And so we're looking forward to hear what it is that they're putting forward.
All right, and that meeting is, who is requesting the meeting, and who will be meeting, and where? And
the Prime Minister is requesting the meeting, and she's putting forward the team who she's assigned, as well as the Rastafari representatives. But in addition to that team that was assigned, we're looking forward to Mr. Golding, the Minister of Justice, and the Minister of Finance also being present at that meeting, because we want to make sure that the information is being cut across the board. It's not being limited to just a room, you know.
All right, and I heard you mention two ministers who are not directly from the government perspective dealing with the issue.
Right.
Mr. Pickersgill, is he going to be at that meeting, or a representative? Do you know?
Well, it looks like a representative will be at that meeting. It would be great if the ministers did find the time and space to deal with this firsthand, so they're not hearing a second-hand thing. Because the thing is, Andrea, we don't intend to physically be exerting all of this energy for so long. This is the government's job that we are here doing, to be very honest with you. You know, so we're really looking forward to the government really stepping forward now and doing what it is that they said that they were supposed to do. Because up until 2 days ago, Andrea, they were still bombing the back of the mountain. We were standing in the tabernacle, and we felt when the earth shook.
All right, so there's some dynamiting going on. So that the development is still continuing. But I thought that there was from the legal perspective, there was a request for an injunction, or did I get it wrong? What happened in court?
No, there was a request for an injunction. A court order has been put in, but nothing has been passed. We have a court date on March the 7th to return to hear these things, because remember, Andrea, the court case was closed. So in order for us to change that eviction notice, we have to reopen the case, which is what is happening now. So we have a court case set for March the 7th to hear this, and also for March the 27th, because we're also moving it from the lower court to the Supreme Court.
So that while all of this is happening, while the Occupy Pinnacle 31 days now in, while the Prime Minister has sent this information and sent this matter to the Ministry of Land and Environment, and a meeting has been called for Tuesday, the development is still taking place.
Still taking place, and you know it's not stopping, because you see the thing is, Andrea, if they stop now, it shows that they are guilty. You see, and so this thing that they're doing right now is what you call this thing? Psychological motivations.
Or warfare.
That they're happening. That is happening right now. Because when we're on the property, the residents who are there, them heal us up every day. They give us water, them so that we can come and pick fruits from the tree. We have a good relationship, so we have no fuss with them.
Yes.
But when you come down to the reality that this man, Richard Lake, is still bombing up the back of the mountain, and is still taking rocks from the base of the mountain, and the government is not stopping him. The government has done nothing to stop this. Them set up a meeting for Tuesday, which is great, but they're still not moving fast enough, because when you ask them whose side they're on, they'll tell you very, very, very straight. We're on Richard Lake side. So the people don't really matter in this instance. Reggae Month just finished, and all of the different ministers of whatever felt like they could come out and put on them nice dandan and come take pictures during Reggae Month at the different reggae events, and there's no conscience about what is happening. I don't see one minister reach up to Pinnacle. Not one.
Well, we haven't seen any of them at the Black History Month events, and I've been to almost all the Black History Month events, and that tells you, because if, reggae is not going to win this, it's Black history and African-centeredness that is going to win this. Reggae is a part of all of that. The emphasis tells us ourselves what is wrong. So where do you go from here? You're still occupying Pinnacle? The team is still occupying Pinnacle?
The team is still occupying Pinnacle, and we don't really intend to move, Andrea, because what we realize is that if we weren't here, nobody would be here. And they would have probably come and put on a big gate with a big sign that says no trespassing allowed. So it's the greatest thing that could have happened right now, because it's a gift that Jah give us, Because basically what is happening now is that we're explaining to the Jamaican government and the private interests that you are no longer going to have our culture in your hands, and do with it what you will. We are now making steps to take that back into our hands. So whenever it is that they're ready with the decisions that they have to make, we'll already have our infrastructure in place and can come and assist it and support it.
All right. There's a kind of a media silence around the Pinnacle issue within the last 2 or so weeks, probably more than that. I think this is also part of a problem that we face, in that, the 9-day wonder, and then we drop the situation. So a shout out to the media that there is a group still occupying Pinnacle, and they've been doing that for 31 days. That warrants some serious investigative journalism.
Well, we've had the international media come up there almost every day in Andrea. Almost every day. So my thing is, you have to understand the model of Jamaica. Nothing good ever make noise in Jamaica until it go overseas, don't it?
Yeah.
Right, so we continue to invite the international media ones to come forward and to help us bring the story out there, because they're not compromised. Like you, Andrea, you have brought your voice to the highest levels to support this thing, and we have so much respect and love for you. But you see, the other media ones who just use it as a sensational opportunity, that's not what we're dealing with. This is not a different media opportunity. What we're talking about are real opportunities for change in our country. And the media needs to be much more responsible. They need to realize that they are training the youths, they're training the future leaders. What you want, some more entertainers? We don't need no more entertainers now. We need some educators, some people who have critical thinking abilities. Not out and bad and red rum and sure. You see what I'm saying?
I'm right there with you, my sister. In the meantime, I just like to say to the community, the Jamaican community, to the African community here in Jamaica, and to others, that this is something that if we fail at Pinnacle, and we continue to fail, you see, and that is why we can't fail at Pinnacle. It must be an example of where people power really work. It must be an example to government, to the authorities, and when I say government, without the partisan, abbreviations, PNPs and JLP, but that it must be an example to government that people will stand up, and when they do, that they will win because of people power. It must not just be something that we say, it must be something that we do. So let me just congratulate you and the team for keeping at this, even when it seems as if media has gone silent. But to say to the community, please be a part of this. Go through if you can. You might not be able to stay for long, but go through. They are at Pinnacle. The group is occupying Pinnacle for justice. Walk through. Be a part of that. Just don't be an armchair radicals and veranda critiques. Be a part of that. Well, my sister, I really do hope now that, February was a really, really busy month for a lot of people because of two things happening. And so that now we can turn our attention seriously while this is happening to Pinnacle without any kinds of distractions. Occupying Pinnacle is still happening, as our sister is saying on the phone lines, Denisha Prendergast. There's a meeting scheduled for Tuesday. That's a new development because we did not know that.
Right, and got that in last night.
You got that last night. All right, and then out of that, we'll talk with you again, see what was said in the meeting.
Well, and here's one thing I can say, Andrea. I can tell that the system is already starting to fight against me, you know? So it go.
Talk to me about that, Denisha.
I was invited to a panel discussion last week at the Institute of Jamaica.
Yeah.
And then I got a call back from the same ones who were inviting me a few days later to say, you know that the panel is full now, and we're going to have to ask. We're going to have to ask you gracefully if you'll step down off of the panel because it's overfull or something. So I said, all right, no problem.
Really?
Oh, but you can still come and listen if you want to.
Oh,
so
really?
I said, okay. Yeah, man, no problem. So good.
What was that discussion? What was that discussion about?
About Pinnacle. About Pinnacle. This happened mostly last week, Sunday, at the Institute of Jamaica. So I went to the Institute anyway to sit in and to listen, you know, because it's all about Pinnacle. Kabaka was supposed to be on the panel. I think Louis Moiston, I think Nice, and someone else was supposed to be on the panel. Full panel, you know?
Yes.
And, you know, when I walk in and the thing starts, there's only one person sitting up on the stage, and it's Kabaka. The rest of the stage is empty there. Nobody else is there. And I'm sitting at the back of the room, and the organizers know I'm there, but still they refuse to have any kind of dialogue with me. So when I look at the program, and I look at the back of the program, I see the Institute of Jamaica is an agency of the Ministry of Youth and Culture. And then I understand everything. So this is just a word down to all of the ones who have the pens and who can make the big decisions to try to blacklist us. It's not going to happen in this Iowa.
No, and
because you cannot hold down the voices anymore. And
you're doing the right thing, my sister, by shouting out loud and clear. Let us hear what is happening. We'll continue to shout that for you. And for all of us, actually, I think that we need to be doing that with one voice. But that tells me that we're winning. Right. So
the battle is already won, you know, it's just a process we have to go through right now.
So all right, so did that panel discussion actually take place?
The panel discussion went through. Kabaka led it in a great way. You know, afterwards he did a performance and lots of questions were asked. There were a whole room of Pan-Africanists. So it wasn't young people jumping up and down in the media, like I hear one of the young artists them say recently. It wasn't young people jumping up and down in the media trying to run for government. No. It was a room full of Pan-Africanists looking for a Pan-African solution to this problem. Not a governmental solution, a Pan-African solution to this problem.
Yes.
You know? So, Andrea, again, I give thanks for the strength that you've continued to show us and the inspiration as young people, because we need that inspiration, we need that support. It's not easy standing up here on a stage and hearing everybody criticize and throw rotten tomatoes when they should be planting seeds too. You know, but when
keep going, my sister, keep going. We're with you. We're with you all the way on this. And once again, just to say, the meeting is on Tuesday. When you finish with that meeting, please let us know and what happened and what the suggestions are in terms of moving forward. In the meantime, I appeal to the community once again to put this back in the public sphere, to be part of this. Let this be a movement for change here in Jamaica. Let us stand up for something and see it through for once. Thank you very much, my sister. We'll continue to talk with you. Occupy Pinnacle is still happening. People can go through up Pinnacle to Slaggerville, up to Pinnacle, and be part of that. Thank you, Denisha. We'll keep on this.
You're welcome, Andrea. For the month of March, we're opening up the space for everyone to come. We are celebrating the Battle of Ottawa and the victory. So every day for the month of March, we're going to be having different programming, especially on Thursdays. The Thursday Lunch Club is an activity that Mr. Howell used to have. So every Thursday from 1 o'clock into the evening at Pinnacle, we'll be having gatherings and discussions. Come forward. Right.
Brilliant. So this Thursday from 1 o'clock, there's a gathering and discussion at Pinnacle. Good. Thank you very much for that, Denisha.
One love, sis.
All right, Denisha Prendergast, the granddaughter of Rita Marley and Bob Marley, who is leading this Occupy Pinnacle here in Jamaica. Quick background: Pinnacle being the epicenter, the intellectual faculty, as Clinton Hutton says, of Rastafari and the development of Rastafari, the Rastafarian movement here in Jamaica. Leonard Howell, as the known as the first Rasta, the founding father of the Rastafarian movement here in Jamaica. Obviously, we know that there were many others with him, but he's identified as one of those persons, the first person to point to His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie, and as a result of that, developed a whole community and a whole lifestyle, social situation and political situation around what later became known as the Rastafarian movement, the Rastafarian faith, whatever you know it as, here in Jamaica. That happened for the most part, led by Leonard Howell at Pinnacle in St. Catherine. Pinnacle has the land, there's still a dispute around the ownership of the land. Leonard Howell bought hundreds and over 500 acres, just under 500 acres of land, and developed a self-sufficient community there at Pinnacle. How the land moved from the ownership of Leonard Howell into the hands of government and then into the hands of the current developers is a contentious issue here in Jamaica that many are still baffled over. So this is one of the conversations that's happening here on the ground. That's one thing. Then there's the other thing, where in 2007, the Ministry of Culture decided to name 5 or 6 lots as heritage sites, but didn't, naming only one later on, eventually naming only one lot later on as a heritage site. Now, the call might seem complex and confusing, but it's really, really simple. And it is to return Pinnacle to that space that it occupied, and even to take it beyond that as a cultural epicenter of the Rastafari movement. So you make this a kind of a mecca. This is what Pinnacle is in our consciousness. And you see, this is what I talked about earlier, that regardless of I think it's Sheikh Anta Diop, or if my husband could text me, who actually said those words, that whatever thing happened 1 million years ago, 500 years ago, 7 years ago, or just now, it occupies the very same space in your consciousness. That is why the fight for Pinnacle is so raw, because even though it happened 70 odd years ago, or 50 years ago, that it occupies that same space in our consciousness as an injustice that has happened to us that has not been corrected as a people. And so that the fight is going to remain, because that consciousness, that space it occupies, is feeling the raw emotions of injustice. That's why the fight will not die. It's not something that happened 1,000 years ago, and so we don't care anymore. It occupies that space in our consciousness that is as raw, as red, and as bleeding as ever, so that the fight will continue. It will not end because you've sent it to the Ministry of Land. It will not end because the media, for the most part, have dropped the story. It will not end because you have summoned us to a meeting on Tuesday. It will not end. The fight for Pinnacle is an ongoing fight until we feel satisfied. So that the request that is being made and the demand that is being made is that Pinnacle be returned to that cultural space. Lots can happen there, but that it is revered and seen and developed as a cultural heritage space for Rastafari. All right, so I heard my phone just beeping, so I'll just check that message to see if I got that answer as to who said that, whether the thing happened 1,000 years ago or 5 years ago or 7 years ago, it occupies the very same space in our consciousness. All right, so this thing is ticking like crazy. All right, okay, now. All right, so we take a quick break. We'll be right back.
ATL Automotive Limited, your authorized distributors for Honda, Volkswagen, Audi, Jaguar, and Land Rover, is open on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The time by ATL is
now 6 minutes going up to 7 o'clock. You're inside of the IRFM forum, the Africa Forum, Running African. Or that 3 minutes. Okay, no, I wasn't seeing that clock right. 3 minutes now, going up to 7 o'clock. All right, thank you very much, my production assistant on the ground, working very hard, Simone Bond Keys. All right, so I'm hearing from my husband that the person who actually said that whether something happened, 100 years ago or 50 years ago, a century ago, and it occupies the very same space in your consciousness, that was our brother Ivan Van Sertima. All right. If we could get the direct quote, I'll be very, very happy for that. Somebody could Google that and send the quote to me, Selector Princess.
The essence of power is the ability to define someone's reality and have them live according to that definition as though it is a definition of their own choosing. To define someone's reality and have them live according to that definition as though it is a definition of their own choosing.
All right, we're back with you inside of the Africa Forum, Running African. So we're going to be speaking with Priest Kailash, who is in from St. Lucia. He is, was a teacher of sciences in St. Lucia, also administrator of CARICOM Free Trade Corporation from 1999 to 2000. He sits on the Commission for Non-Communicable Chronic Illnesses in St. Lucia, and also chair of the Commission for the Relief Effort to Earthquake in IT. It sits on the Commission for Reparations in St. Lucia. And as we have been saying, a top herbalist, also an author of the Herbal Manual, Volume 1, the Herbal Manual, Volume 2, the Sugar Baby Naturally Eradicating Diabetes, and the Food of 7 Vegan Cookbook. He joins me live on the phone lines. Priest Kailash, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Africa Forum.
Yes, blessed love, sister. Thank you very much for having me this morning.
Right, and we do apologize. You were scheduled to be in the studio this morning. We had to push that back, but we are happy that you could speak to us on the phone lines this morning. All right, very accomplished, and I'd let our listeners know, and I can say that you're a very accomplished young man.
Yes, I am.
Yes, and part, tell us a little bit about that, because it's eclectic in a way. So it's medicine, and you're also an author, but it's so much that you're involved in. Tell us a little bit about your medical background.
Well, basically, I give thanks again even for Brother Jelani, who basically organized for me coming into Jamaica with the University of the West Indies, Mona campus. I grew up with my grandmother in the countryside in St. Lucia. Mm-hmm. Always from a young man, these two things I always knew I wanted to be was a Rastafari, meaning, well, look, after I accomplish everything I have in my life, I would then put up my dreads and be a Rastafari. And that's what I was thinking at that time. And also, I always wanted to become a doctor. Mm-hmm. But growing up with my grandmother, I was frequently exposed to many people actually coming with all modalities of sicknesses, that you could think about to my grandmother. And then she would just send me out into the bush and say, okay, go and get this herb there, go and get that herb over there, and then I'll come back. If I have the wrong one, she'd say, no, it's the one with the broad leaf or the one with the flat leaf or the one that smells like sulfur. So over the years, I developed a yearning to understand the scientific basis through which all the remedies that my grandmother used to actually prepare used to work. So after going to medical school, I actually began in Cuba, where I did about 2 years, and then I got another scholarship to the American University of Antigua College of Medicine, where I actually graduated from my basic sciences,
Yes.
And after which, I immediately embarked upon the creation of my own herbal products, because going through medical school, having a scientific mind, I always had the objective of exactly how is it that I'm going to better the situation of my people, meaning from people from an African descent. Because as a young man, I sat working towards alleviating the common day problems of my people.
Yes. I'm paying special attention to how you have not divorced yourself from the traditional, from that which which you grew up with, and blending that with the orthodox. How difficult was that to do?
Well, I'm a man that is very firm in what I believe. Mm-hmm. And as I said, it's two things I always wanted to become, was Rastafari and a healer or a doctor. And keeping the Rastafari principles have been that kind of guiding, that guiding light towards keeping me on path. Mm-hmm. And it hasn't been that difficult, because my orientation when it comes to the whole aspect of life, I'm a man that always looks for solutions. So wherever we got difficulties in life, we actually use that difficulty as a problem and saw exactly how we could actually resolve it.
Yes.
We don't really focus on the difficulties. So you see, when we began medical school, it was amazing, to see, well, look, there was this drug that we were talking about. I remember in a pharmacology class, and this professor came in and he had this PowerPoint presentation, and he was talking about phytochemicals in different plants used to make medicines. And there came this herb up on the screen, a herb we know as Japana, and then he was talking about this herb containing coumarin. Now, coumarin is what we call a blood thinner, and then I was saying, but all the time, my grandmother have actually been giving these things to people with poor circulation or what you call blood clots or whatever problem that they might have had. So the scientific background or the scientific understanding of our elders, our grandmothers, our great-grandfathers, our grandfathers, it was very sound. So all I had to do then was say, look, let me identify the herbs that we normally use. Let me actually do some research in finding out exactly what the phytochemical components are and how is it that we are actually going to use these herbs by themselves and in combination, not to have a health care system where you only care for the sick, but to have more like a health cure system whereby we could use these herbs and a change in lifestyle to naturally eradicate the diseases that actually plague our people.
And you talk about you're developing also your own herbal products. I want to talk about some of those herbs that you identified and developed into herbal products. And so give us an idea also of the uses, because we can identify with them. It's as in St. Lucia, so in Jamaica.
Well, definitely. I mean, one of the key herbs, because the people, most people come to me for diabetes, which we have been very successful in actually reversing in what we call a 21-day reversal program, and the herbs that we would fundamentally use for diabetes, first of all, before you begin to deal with a patient with diabetes, they must have that understanding, and that's the failure that most times through our so-called contemporary allopathic medicine, you don't really have the time to sit down with a patient and have a consultation for an hour. But it might take the patient an hour to understand diabetes, So number one, the patient needs to get that understanding. Okay, well, look, I'm suffering from this disease. I'm always thirsty. I'm frequently urinating. I feel like things are crawling up my legs. These days, whenever I urinate, I see ants come around my pee. I have thrush or fungal infection all the time. When we can relate this to the biochemical reality of what is happening in this person's blood, so you make them understand, look, there are many components within the environment, not solely your diet. That's a key thing also. So we're not only talking about just giving them a herb and then using the herb the same way that a drug or an insulin injection is used. We make them understand, well, look, being a diabetic means that your physical structure, your cells, which is the smallest structural and functional unit of the human anatomy, it cannot really absorb the sugar through the cell membrane. So that means the sugar, which is basically the energy molecule, which every single cell in your physical structure is utilizing. It could be your brain, your heart, your liver, your muscle. Every single cell needs glucose to actually work to do whatever it is that they have to do. Now, with diabetes, what happens is that even if you've eaten a meal, or as I'll say, a feast, filled with sugar, that sugar does not have any access through the cell membrane. Why? Because number one, it could be, look, your cell has become insulin resistant, meaning that you need a larger quantity of insulin to actually allow the glucose to pass through the membranes, or they call it the channels through the cells, through the cell membrane to get into the cell, so it could be utilized for energy. Number two, your pancreas might not be producing any insulin. Or number three, your immune system might be destroying the beta cells in the pancreas, which are responsible for producing the diabetes, the insulin. So hence you have no insulin whatsoever. Now also, when you make the person understand, well, look, if it is that you are upset this morning, you stressed, you have a problem, your brother passed away, your sister passed away, what you're going to have an increase in the stress hormone called cortisol. Now, that stress hormone will also result in an elevated blood sugar level. Now, if you are in a perpetual stress position, that means your blood sugar levels would actually be perpetually high, resulting in your pancreas being stressed out, always having to produce insulin. You get insulin resistance, then diabetes. if you are exposed to plastics containing what we call BPA, bisphenol A, which is a xenoestrogen, a synthetic estrogen, this would actually act upon the pancreas the same way, make it produce lots of insulin, and you develop insulin resistance, just as if when you have a woman that is going through what you call gestational diabetes. When a woman is pregnant and she develops diabetes, after she gives birth, she has no diabetes. That's only because at that point, her level of estrogen, the female hormone, is higher than normal. Hence, it causes the pancreas to actually produce more insulin. Then you could actually develop what you call insulin resistance that could lead to diabetes. So after we go through a variety of different levels of explanation, bring the science to a level of understanding that the common man could actually understand, then they would understand, okay, well, look, we have to change that form of our lifestyle. Now, what herbs could we utilize as hypoglycemic herbs that could actually bring down the blood sugar levels naturally? Now, one of the herbs that's ignored a lot is a herb called periwinkle, what they call Vinca rososa. Some of them have a pink flower or a white flower.
Yes, we know them very well here in Jamaica, yes.
Now, this herb is excellent for diabetes. My most stubborn diabetes case was the ex-minister of sports of St. Lucia who had been on insulin for over 30 years. And he had amputated at least 2 toes already, and that his sugar levels was just, phenomenal. It was always high. He's on the insulin, and, so we had to work on him. And the herb that had the greatest efficacy, that actually brought down the blood sugar level the fastest, and its better consistency, was an extract we did from the periwinkle. Now, there is also a herb called a dandelion. The dandelion contains a substance called inulin, which is very similar in structure to insulin. So what it does, it actually assists in the absorption of blood, of sugar or glucose to the cell membrane. Then in Jamaica, you also have the neem that actually grows wild. You could use 13 leaves of the neem to half a cup of hot water, 15 minutes before every time before your feast. That is excellent. A little lemon juice, it helps to oxidize the excess sugar. Exercise helps to burn out the excess sugar. So, all in all, we don't just actually come and say, well, look, man, there's this miracle herb, just drink this herb and everything is all right. People must get the understanding that, look, it takes us a certain level of discipline, because most diabetics are very indisciplined. They know that they're not supposed to eat junk, they're not supposed to drink soft drinks, they're not supposed to be sucking lollipops or eating lots of simple carbs like your rice, your white flour, your white potato and all these things, but yet still that's the things that they like. That's why within our studies and what we have created for our diabetic program is that we teach the people exactly how to prepare the foods using more like complex carbs that allow the glucose to be released within the bloodstream in a more drip level, so it allows the physical structure enough time to actually absorb it.
And you've mentioned diabetes and given us some really brilliant information here regarding that and the role that herbs can play in curing diabetes. Have you also been looking at, and I've heard you said this, looking at the diseases and the disease that affect African people in particular, other diseases such as hypertension and so on, and where are you with that? What can you tell us about some of those illnesses, some of those diseases that are, out of proportion within the African community?
Well, it's interesting that you should ask that question, because, as you know, we're going right through the reparation movement in Jamaica and for the rest of the Caribbean, for CARICOM. And one of the key things that I have been saying for years, I remember once I was in Ghana and I was invited by London Provisional Union to give a lecture on how food could actually affect the DNA. And at that time, there was one professor on the board who was denying that, okay, well, man, food would not be able to affect the DNA and all these things. But, I had a brilliant lecture with them, and I got them to the level of understanding that, look, you are definitely what you eat, and when you look at the effects of the transatlantic slave trade, and you look at we as a people being brought into the Caribbean, and one of the things that was not brought with us was our foods. So you had that kind of drastic change from a diet or a leavet of grains and greens and whatever it is that the people were consuming at that particular time. into a diet of just blood, starch, and milk, and milk was a rare thing, but the diet was just completely changed. There was a chemical called bisphenol, not bisphenol, diethylstylbistrol, which is basically another synthetic estrogen. They normally inject this into like fowls, into cows, into pigs to actually, it's a synthetic estrogen, so it makes the animal grow faster, all right? Now, when you as an individual consume that bisphenol A, the residues of it from the animal, or if you consume it directly, what it does now, it causes what you call a demethylation, whereby a carbon and free hydrogen groups are taken off your DNA. So it changes now your whole genes. What determines what your children are going to look like. What determines whether they're going to be susceptible to sickle cell, or whether they're going to be susceptible to diabetes, high blood pressure, fibroids, prostate cancer. And what the studies realized was that women who were exposed to, let's say, bisphenol A or diethylstylbistrol, they had an 80% higher risk of developing breast cancer, uterine cancer, cervical cancer, and fibroids, and also polycystic ovarian syndrome. So when you look at a disease like high blood pressure, which is a disease of salt, what you call sodium, because most people go to the doctor says, okay, man, cut the salt, and from their perspective, all the doctor is talking about is table salt. But we must understand that salt, milk contains more salt than salt. Cheese contains more salt than salt. If you're going to do a macaroni pie, I hope you don't do any macaroni pies with cheese. But if it is you're going to do a macaroni pie, you have to be very careful the amount of salt you put. Yeah. Why? Because the cheese already contains a certain amount of salt. So there's the milk and the cheese and the milk contains the same amount of cholesterol as the equal weight of beef. So when you now consume the milk and the other animal products, like the pork, the chicken, the beef, and all these things, not trying to convert anyone to a plant-based diet, but the reality is this, that the animal products contains a high level of sodium. Now, take for instance, you did a one pot, and you had saltfish. After you've eaten that one pot, that might have been a bit salty, your body would actually require lots of water. So you're going to be drinking a lot of water. So the more sodium you put inside of your physical structure, it results now in your physical structure needing water. Hence, your kidneys now will withhold water from actually passing out through your penis or through your vagina when you urinate. Now, what this causes? Very simple. The more fluid you have in your system, the higher the pressure. So let's say you have a cistern or a tank. The tank has 500 gallons of water. When you open the tap, the water going to have a high pressure. If you reduce that 500 gallons to 250 gallons, then the pressure would actually decrease. So the more sodium that you actually consume, the more fluid you actually retain, causing that imbalance in what you call hypertension. Now, we as a people of African descent, going through the transatlantic slave trade, being exposed to a particular type of diet, our system is more prone to the diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, and all these things because our genes have been bombarded by synthetic and chemical products. Now, when it comes to resolving the problem of hypertension, when you go to a conventional doctor, they might prescribe lisinopril, or atenolol, or amlodipine, or they might just give you a water tablet, what you call a diuretic. Now, what a diuretic does is that it causes you to urinate. So as you urinate, what you do when you're passing out fluid, then obviously, like the 500-gallon tank, you come down to 250 gallons, then your pressure is actually reduced. So when we look at the whole aspect of dealing with hypertension, we deal with it, okay, look, if you understand how the kidney operates, when you have high sodium, you withhold water and you pass out potassium. When you have a high potassium diet, you actually let go of sodium, and wherever sodium goes, water follows. So we encourage people to go on a potassium high diet. That means a plant-based diet. Bananas, dandelion, moringa, parsley, Irish moss, all these things, they are things that contain high levels of potassium.
And And as you mentioned some of those plant-based diets, and you talk about moringa, for example, I was very, very shocked just recently, and I don't know why shocked, but I was reading the book of Coming Forth by Day, and this was like my 15th reading. And maybe because I didn't know the plant before. But the moringa is mentioned, I've found it probably 32 times already. Or something like that in the book of Coming Forth by Day, what people call the Book of the Dead, as one of those trees and plants that's so integral to the health of ancient Egyptians. And here you are sending us back to who we were and who we are. Instinctively, we know this. And I'm going to call you Imhotep Kailash, if you don't mind, because I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, well, here we are, Imhotep in this time. And we have only, Imhotep, we have only seven minutes left in this segment of the program. You have animated me, as you can probably tell. You're in the island for a specific purpose. What is that purpose, and where can we hear you?
Well, basically, I am helping launch 2 of my books. One is the herbal manual and the counterpart of it called the Food of 7 Vegan Cookbook. And I'll be doing this at the University of the West Indies this coming Thursday. And that is, we open up from 6 o'clock, and that's at the N1 conference room. You know, that's this Thursday at the University of the West Indies, that's Mono Campus, at the N1 conference room. And we'll also be availing ourselves to anyone who actually wants a consultation, whether they want to sit with us, and want to get some counsel on exactly how is it that it could better their life, no matter what disease that you are talking about. And always remember, when the doctor says that there is no cure for this disease, you know, and there is no cure for the common cold, there is no cure for diabetes, no cure for fibroids, no cure for polycystic ovarian syndrome, no cure for cancer, you know. So when you hear that there is no cure, don't be disheartened, you know, because there is not really any cure in allopathic medicine. But with herbal medicine, you know, there is healing in that. So you'll be given consultations. If it is that you want to get in touch with us, you could call us at 326-4415. That's 326-4415. And we're calling out to the members of the Rastafari community also. We'll be having a day session on Thursday. That's by Ras Ego. What's the name of that place again?
Country Farmhouse, is it?
Country Farmhouse.
Yes.
Like during the day, we'll be there. So, I mean, with the people that wants to come in, they could come in and sit with us. We would counsel them on exactly how is it that they have to proceed to naturally eradicate disease. But before you go, there is, you see, the same periwinkle herb.
Yes.
There's a cancer called cancer of the lymph nodes called lymphoma. There's Hodgkin's lymphoma and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, the periwinkle contains 2 substances called vincristine and vinblastine. Now, if you go to chemotherapy for leukemia or lymphoma, they're going to give you an extract from the periwinkle plant or synthetically produced one called the same vincristine via chemotherapy. And, sister, this herb actually helps to bring down tumors when it comes to tumors of the lymph nodes, or if you have cancer of the blood, quickly, very, very quickly helps to bring down your white blood cells to a normal level. And I'm saying, look, don't stigmatize herbs and don't call people who study herbs witchcraft and Ovia and Pokemon and them type of things. So, you know, there is a lot of validity in the utilization of the herbs, and we must embrace it as our culture.
And how is the codex and the rules and so on? I don't know if you've been paying attention to the Codex Alimentarius, and how is that impacting the work that you're doing?
Well, it's correct, because remember, we're talking about the people, you know. So when the people get results, you know, this is something called imperialism and colonization again, whereby the white world, the European forces want to actually come, now that they've seen the movement is going towards herb, they want to come and control it through capitalism. That's nothing about protecting anyone. They want to have direct control of the herbs. So at least, if you're in England, for instance, you have to go to Tesco's or Sainsbury's to buy ginger, you know, whereby every Jamaican living in England could just go by the market, or, you know, a Jamaican who bring up Guinea hen weed or and you could get it from them. So it's about control and capitalism. And I know for sure that in the time we live in a time of enlightenment, this thing really shouldn't bother anyone, because the power is with the people, and the people have the power to actually determine their own destiny.
It seems to me that as far as our representatives are, though, on the international and global codex committees, that we are powerless. We have had conversations with representatives from the Ministry of Health, for example, who sit on these codex committees, who have told us that they really don't have a voice where that is concerned. And as we even talk about reparations, it's something I think might have been left out of the conversation, and I don't think deliberately so, but we have not been thinking about this, that this is something that we probably need to bring into the discussion, because the decisions are going to be made. They're going to impact trade. They're going to impact our ability to access these herbs sooner or later, and how we access them, so that we must have these conversations post-haste. And somebody like yourself, I think, is very well placed to help to assist with some of these.
Well, I give thanks, for the little that we do, and at the end of the day, what we have to do, we have to unite as a people, we have to organize and we have to centralize.
Yes.
The herbs work, everyone knows about it. And remember also that Rastafari is 50 years ahead of the people.
Of course.
When we were talking about legalized marijuana, everybody was saying they were mad. When we were talking about repatriation, they were sending stones and calling us people who wear skates and dress, So at the end of the day, we don't have to be disheartened, sister.
Of course.
As His Imperial Majesty says, good will always conquer evil, So we have to know that we must deal, number one, and that's a message to the people, You have to deal with a foundation of love,
My brother.
Love,
My brother, we can't say that. We can't say that enough. Once again, just to remind our listeners, you're speaking on Thursday. It's a launch of your book on Thursday at the University of the West Indies in One Lecture Theatre. And at what time again?
That's from 6 p.m. And if anyone wants to contact us, it's 326-4415, 326-4415. We have a couple of medicines that will be there, so you could see them. And also, we have both books available, the Herbal Manual and also the Food of Seven vegan cookbook. In
the meantime, is a book available for our online listeners? Is a book available on Amazon, or where can they get the copies of it?
Well, you could go on our website. That's www.thegreatphysicianinternational.com. That's thegreatphysicianinternational.com. And we've not seen face-to-face, but I am indeed a member of the East Africa Black International Congress, what people would call Boboshanti.
Yes.
Apart from being a medical school guy and a herbal physician, So
yes.
we bring both spiritual and physical healing to the people, which is what the people actually need in these times.
All right.
And the hope.
Yes, go ahead.
And the hope of salvation.
All right. Give thanks, my brother, Imhotep.
Love.
Priest
Honorable.
Give thanks. All right. So he'll be at the University of the West Indies on Thursday. Be sure to go there. And once again, the Great Physician is what you Google for more information. The Great Physician International for more information. All right. Thank you very much, Simone Brown-Keys, for staying on. I appreciate that. But I really appreciate you staying on. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you much. All right, quick break. When we come back, we have Africa Forum. It's Running African. Going to be going to the phone lines now to speak with our brother, Attorney at Law Bert Samuels. And you might have been hearing the news. You might have seen this on the news about a case that Bert Samuels was involved in involving the shipwright agreement, and was successful in arguing that case in court. We have the judgment, and I'll explain to Bert when he comes on. We do have the judgment. It was sent to us, but because we had some shocking news in the week, was not able to read through. Bert Samuels, good morning, my brother. Thank you very much for joining.
Morning to you, sister, to you and your listeners.
Right. Bert, I must apologize. As you know, we're dealing with the death of our CEO, and as a result of that, I was not able to read through the judgment that was sent to me, and so that I'm going to be asking you some questions. I'm not expecting a lot from you this morning in terms of helping us to understand what this is, to contextualize it for us, because one of the things we want to get to this morning is how does this case impinge on the issues dealing with the trade in ganja, for example, and if it does. All right. So first of all, this case, a successful case, Bert Samuels, was this a part of the shipwrighter agreement? Did this come out of some of those old treaties? Tell us about that.
It's one of the treaties. The law is actually called the Maritime Drug Trafficking Suppression Act, and it speaks for itself. It is to, the maritime areas of not the territorial seas of the individual countries. This is really what fishermen call outer Big Sea, which is outside the territorial waters of the nations in the Latin American area, have all come together, including the United States and Caribbean countries and Latin American countries, and have decided to come together to halt drug trafficking in this region. As you know, it's part of the cocaine route, passes from South America into North America through our waters and other waters. And this is an agreement between the nations to curb drug trafficking.
All right. And the case itself, can you talk to us about that case?
Yes. What the case demonstrates is that David Chin, who is a Jamaican fisherman, went to sea for 6 days in November of 2009. And on his return, when he entered the Kingston Harbor, he was escorted by Jamaica Defense Force, Marine Division, Coast Guard, and they required a search of his vessel. They took him into the Port Royal at their base and searched the boat. Mm-hmm. He had no problem with that. All he had 300,000 pounds of fish, but wanted to sell it. It hampered his sales for about a day, and then it was taken across from Port Royal over to the other side of the harbour, near to the craft market in the Kingston Harbour itself, and the search continued. Mm-hmm. Lo and behold, this search, our client had no protest with it. It was being done by Jamaican, police officers and the soldiers. He had no problems with it. Lo and behold, U.S. Marine Forces entered the harbor in a dinghy boat, about 6 officers, and wanted to search his boat. And he said, "You'll have none of that. You're not Jamaican security forces. Do not come on my boat." So he called me, and I went on the boat, and, we told them they are not allowed to come on Jamaican's private property, and they left. Mm-hmm. They went away, and in collaboration with the Jamaican security forces, they came back, and the army and the police informed me that they had special equipment that they would be using, and they are on the boat on the invitation of the Jamaican security forces, and that is where the war started.
Yes.
Because myself and my client were vehement. We are not to come on this boat. They actually came onto the boat. When they came on, I was present. I asked the U.S. Marine Forces, "May I have your names?" They refused to give the names to me because, they're not answerable to me, mm-hmm. because I'm a Jamaican attorney. They are foreign forces. And they started to search the boat. There was no special equipment that I saw being used by them. There are hands on their eyes, that we also have, were being used. Mm-hmm. When that happened, I wrote to the JDF, I wrote to the police high command and protested the matter that they wrongly brought on board foreign forces to search a Jamaican vessel. The Minister of National Security at the time sided with the Army and said that the shipwrighter agreement allows for this. And we took a principled position that we wanted to go to court to find out whether the shipwrighter agreement, that maritime law, allows foreign forces to come aboard Jamaican vessels in Jamaican waters and search. Mm-hmm. And that question was put to the court, along with the breach of our constitutional right not to be searched by foreign forces. Mm-hmm. Well, the judgment came on our side. The judge found that there is no way that the Jamaican security forces ought to give up their... Americans have donated to us a lot of equipment to our maritime division. And I think what really happened is that we compromised our sovereignty because of the big nation, big stick policy almost. Yes. We could not say no to the Americans. They wanted to come aboard, and my view is that we were not strong enough to say you can't come aboard a Jamaican vessel.
And this is very important for us, even as we seek to understand the different treaties that have been signed under the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative itself, outside of a shipwrighter agreement. So this judgment says a lot and tells us a lot. How might this impact... and questions have been raised. Mutabuk have been asking these questions. We have been asking these questions. How might this impact the conversation, the discussion now on the decriminalization of ganja and the trade in ganja and so on? Yes.
It's very interesting. Now, the piecemeal legalization of marijuana in the United States is one of the issues. Not all the states have, one, agreed not to to make it legal. The second thing is the implications for a lot of Jamaicans who are now serving extensive prison time in the United States. One interesting thing is you're going to have Jamaicans serving, who are already serving 20, 30-year sentences for trafficking ganja in the United States, who that prison may be stationed in the same state where the drug is now legal.
Of course, yes.
So that's one of the issues.
Yes.
The second issue is, can a U.S. vessel chase a Jamaican vessel that has ganja on it in the high seas? Because it is no longer an illegal substance in parts of the United States. So this is very interesting time to see how it will pan itself out.
And if it does, get into Caribbean waters, what right does it have to say search a Jamaican vessel in Caribbean waters?
Well, they cannot search a Grenadian vessel, a Trinidadian vessel, once that vessel is in the territorial seas of that particular country.
Yes.
But, we don't know if, strong arm tactics. We said they couldn't, and they ended up searching our boats,
Anyway, right.
until the court, gave compensation. In fact, the court gave $500,000 Jamaican to the captain for the breach of his constitutional rights. The search lasted about 20 minutes, and he got $500,000 for that. But one of the things that you'd be very encouraged by this judgment, and I don't want to stray from the ganja point because I want to return to it, is you'll find in the judgment, he said, one of the interesting things he found is that we were all careful to have a treaty to deal with drugs and stopping drugs in the ocean, in the seas. But we did not seek to have anything to do with the trafficking of guns. That has always been our problem here. Yes. We have cooperated with the United States on drugs. Or aircraft can't land in the United States. We are penalized if an aircraft lands there with drugs found in it. We've done everything to help them. Our problem here, where people are killed, the murder rate is so high with guns manufactured mainly in the United States. We have not asked for any such things as a maritime weapons treaty to stop the flow of weapons from the seas into Jamaica, because we're not prioritizing that. We are prioritizing someone else's agenda.
And that's the point I was just going to make also, that the agenda, this idea of the war on drugs, which somehow, surprisingly or not, includes ganja, is not our agenda. It's the agenda of the United States and whoever else. And so that we prioritize that. So what does, in terms of the ruling that came down in the judgment from the judge, that point on guns, where do we go from here? Do you think anything is going to be done?
Well, it's very interesting because where a judge makes a comment like that, it should be taken very seriously because he's doing it as a concerned citizen. Why are we in this big hype about suppressing drugs? And, we are moving on the oceans to stop them to go, when we have a real gun problem in Jamaica with guns coming from the United States. But then again, remember the United States, you have a constitutional right to bear arms. So they don't look at guns the way that we look at guns. They don't have the high rate of unemployment in their own society that we have here. For young men who have, nothing more to do, it's a different situation where they can afford to have guns being legal. And you see the problems they're having with that, even that position. Of course, yeah. Where, you people are going into schools and killing children. So they have a gun problem, but they say that they have a constitutional right to bear arms. So maybe that is in conflict with our own laws in Jamaica, because we do not have a constitutional right to bear arms in Jamaica. So, you know what the irony of it is? We were not allowed to free up ganja in Jamaica because the U.S. would frown on us. But they freed up guns in their country and created a problem for us. You see the imbalance and the unfairness of policies interpolicy between countries.
We're talking about the balance of power.
Yes.
But to go back to this, the concern of many regarding ganja, and the Minister Paul was saying recently that ganja will be decriminalized by the end of the year. So he says. So questions have come up now regarding so the export of ganja with Canada saying or persons from Canada saying we want to buy ganja from Jamaica. What role does the judgment play in helping to facilitate that trade?
Well, I would put it this way: the only way the judgment only says this, that the U.S. if we were decided as a sovereign country that or we're going to export ganja, the U.S. forces could not search that vessel once it is in Jamaican territorial waters. Mm-hmm. But if it goes on the high sea and it's on the way to Canada, mm-hmm. because they still at the federal level they have not said ganja is not legal, they could stop it in a boat, they could, mm-hmm. because it's outside of Jamaican territorial waters. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that has always been the law. The issue in this case was whether in our waters the U.S. could come and search any of our citizens' boats, and that's a no-no. So if a boat is out in the harbor or it's in the territorial seas of Jamaica, the U.S. would have no authority to search it and stop it, but they mm-hmm. can.
Once it's outside,
stop it in the high seas.
Right. What this and to return to the gun situation and the comment on guns, Bert. But what this has done, and I think it should stop any member of parliament, any MP, and I challenge you to do this. And please take up my challenge and ask them what is Vision 2030. But make sure you arm yourself with that first. And let them tell you what that is. It cannot be articulated. It's a document, it's a big book that looks like the telephone directory of old. They have a small book too. Right? It cannot be articulated. Visions are articulated in sentences. What is your vision? To be the best ever. To be the best broadcaster. To be the top of my field. That's what you talk about vision, Vision is just one sentence or two. Just something that you can say to yourself over and over and over and over and understand it. It is not 25 pages and 50 pages and 37 pages. No, vision. That's a nightmare. And it's not our vision. I read a book one time and I swear that book is a nightmare. I can try to remember the name of that book. It's somebody's nightmare. It reminds me of that.
The essence of power is the ability to define someone's reality and have them live according to that definition as though it is a definition of their own.
Think you can deny me for simplicity. We're not so distracted that we don't know that you're doing something.
Blessed love, Sister Andrea.
Yes, good morning, my sister. How are you doing?
Good morning, my sister. I'm here giving thanks for life.
Yes, man, give thanks. All right, yes. Mama Fire, so tell us about the victory at Adwa, Nyabingi. What is the situation? Did the police ask you for a permit?
Well, every year I used to go by the station with a letter from the Nyabingi to the station to get the permit. That's when we gather together, we are molested.
Yes.
But this year is the 9th year, and when I go, they say I have to go to the parish council from last year. When I go, I get a waiver last year because I show them that we never pay no money yet to worship in our way and our farm that we give thanks. And this year now, when I go to the police you have to go to the parish council. When I go to them and give it up, and them say I must come back for the letter. When I go, they say I have to pay some money because everyone have to pay. Now ask them if the church pay. Them say yes, the church have to pay, and everyone have to pay and so forth. So I say I never pay it, and this now is a special victory for I. Like how it is the victory of the Battle of Adwa, that title really got you and gain victory. So because I
back up there, Mama Fire. You ask them if the church have to pay when they're holding like a convention.
Yes.
And they say the church have to pay.
Them say that to me in the parish council. That's what they say, and I say I didn't know of that. Because I never knew of the church have to pay, and this is our way of worship. This is our church. This is our way how we give thanks and praises to the Almighty. So I didn't know that we have to pay for. I born in this and from I born, and we have having our celebration. We never pay and we never pay.
Yeah, that's interesting to me too. You know, my lineage is church. I have a lot of pastors and ministers and evangelists and so on in my family. I'm the only one who's an African, and I never hear them say them paying anything for no convention. But I can double check on that. All right. In the meantime, so what does that mean then? What happened to the bingy?
Well, the bingy is going on right now, Sister Andrea. But here what happened now? When I was to get the permit Friday, and them say I have to go back, when I go to the station, they say I have to go back to the parish council if them cannot give it to me. And when I go forward, them say the fee that I should pay is $10,500, and I tell them I don't have it because I am a sick man. That is the main reason why I even want to celebrate this victory night, the ninth celebration, because I just gone through a big illness of what doctor described me, a woman with cancer, and I come out victorious after my treatment, and I have a special thanksgiving to give to the Almighty in our way. And they say, well, since that I have to pay off, and when I tell them that is only $3,000 I have because I never know about paying no money, someone else give me $1,500 because them say I have to get $2,000 more. So someone else give me $1,500 and I go back to them and let them know. And then take the $4,500 and give me a receipt. So I take it back by the station and them say they was going to give me the permit now, but I have to wait until 4 o'clock because the superintendent is not there to sign it. I tell them I can't wait because I'm hungry and I can't eat outside. I have to go home back to get my food. So one of the policemen said they will drop it off, and I know I don't see anyone come and drop it off.
All right, but you paid your money.
Yes,
and how much in all did you pay?
Yes, Mama.
Yes, how much in all did you pay?
4 or 5. It's 3 from me and $1,500 from someone who give me that donation to make up it and give them.
All right. And where is the bingy going on now?
It's going on right here in White Rock as usual.
White Rock in Portland?
Yes.
All right. Well, the Ministry of Culture is probably, need to pay some attention to this again. It's a culture thing,
True. And I have these right here beside me, too. Yeah. You want to say something to the eye.
All right. But, the Ministry of Culture is going to have to understand what... Hold on. The Ministry of Culture is going to have to understand what the remit... Or maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know what the Ministry of Culture is supposed to do. Maybe I may have it wrong. I'm
going to turn over the eye to us. I have the eye here of clear understanding of what he says.
Yeah.
Yes, Andrea.
Yes, Ivy. So you're at the bingy in Portland, but
yes,
so Ivy, let me ask you a question. When you're holding bingy in Pit 4 and Scott's Pass and so on, do you have to pay?
I have never paid $1 to anybody, Andrea, and that's what surprised I am, man. We have never paid $1 to anybody.
So have you?
We don't really intend to just take it sitting down, Andrea. This is something we have to investigate seriously because we don't know how church paying money to hold in the farmer convention and service. So the same constitutional rights that go for the church supposed to go to I and any other religious group.
Right. It seems to me as if that money must be refunded and returned to Mama Fire and to the Virgin sister Leonard, the $1,500. But you just to reiterate that bingy in Scott's Pass many times, bingy in Pit 4 many times over the years, and in all your years, this is the first time you have heard that so a bingy there has to be some payment for a permit to hold a bingy. Have you found out? Have you asked why?
Well, you see, I am from Westmoreland.
Yeah.
So I came in yesterday evening. By that time, Forest Council Africa is closed and things.
Yeah.
But definitely, we intend to investigate it seriously and thoroughly because it's 40 odd years I go in bingy, Andrea. 40 odd years, and I have never known any situation. I am the co-chairperson of the Administrative Council. So if this was happening or had happened any time, I would have known, and I have never known of any time that I have paid money. But seriously, we have to tackle it because too many times authorities come to Rasta with all type of saying, because I are Rasta.
You mean in 2014 and 21st century, I still have to live on a farmer subjection and some farmer imposition from the authority. We don't go for other people. No, we can't take them things there.
Razor, to tell us, give us an update as to what happened, what monies were returned, and so on, because this has to be cleared up properly. So I'm looking forward to yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
We're not going to take it, and leave it like that.
Yes.
But I just want to read the past, and I sympathy here, and I concern with the past in a Chad.
Yes.
We just want to know what is happening, because we can't forget IRFM and the contributions that made to defending the rights of not the Rasta people, but also the grassroots people of Jamaica.
Yes.
So
thank you
very much. I want to big up IRFM and want you to know, want Jai to know that the Rastafarian, especially from the Nabin point of view, we just want to know what is happening and what the station is planning.
All right. Well, the station is strong. The station is strong. We're still going ahead. The patriarch of the family, Irvin Mu Young, is standing strong, and even while he mourned his brother Carl Young, who was buried before, and now mourning his nephew Chad Young. But Irvin Mu Young is a patriarch of the family right now, who's standing strongly, and we send our condolences to him. We send our condolences to the family, the Young and the Mu Young family, and especially to Irvin Mu Young, who is a patriarch and standing up strongly in this spot, in this space right now. All right? Thank you, my brother. All right, so yes, I know people do have questions about IRFM. IRFM stands strong. Zip FM stands strong. We've lost two stalwarts, and we continue. We've barely got over the grief of one and have moved into another. And in between that, we lost Mighty Mike and Angela. But as far as the family is concerned, we send our strengths and we send our thoughts and some real positive vibration to Mr. Irvin Mu Young, who's now standing as a patriarch. 9, and for those persons who've been asking about the Battle of Adwa, for this one, we don't usually use Wikipedia, but you can use Wikipedia. We've been through it a few times, and a lot of what is there, it will give you an idea as to what happened at... we talk about victory at Adwa. The Battle of Adwa was fought on March 1, 1896. That's when it started, between the Ethiopian Empire and the Kingdom of Italy near the town of Adwa. That is Ethiopia in Tigray, and it was a climatic battle of the First Italo-Ethiopian War, securing Ethiopian sovereignty. So the Italians were defeated at Adwa, and the role that Empress Taitu played in that very, 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 very serious role as a woman. St. Anne Shahini Robinson tabled a motion asking for discussion on the debate on public access to beaches here in Jamaica. MP Robinson is down under the weather with the flu, I think, and a sore throat and so on. But as much as she can tell us this morning, we're going to try and see. We're not going to keep her too long, how much we can hear from her. So Shahini Robinson on the line. Good morning, Shahini. How are you?
Good morning. I'm holding on, thanks.
Yes, I can hear that you're hoarse, because I heard it when you gave the tribute also for Chad in the newscast. I realized you were pretty hoarse. All right, Shahini, so give us a quick little background as to what you did in Parliament recently regarding public access to beaches.
Well, on the 5th of November, I tabled a motion in Parliament for us to debate and fully articulate this whole thing about the access to public beaches, because the government must come up with a clear policy, clear and decisive policy as it relates to public beaches and other places of recreation, because they are a part of the natural environment and we need to have them accessible to all Jamaicans.
Mm-hmm. And that happened when exactly did you table that?
I tabled it on the 5th of November.
The 5th of November. What's a movement on that?
Well, I don't know. I'm sure the House Leader knowing how topical it is, I'm sure the House Leader will make sure that it comes up for debate very soon. And I'll be speaking to him to see how quick we can debate this and to see the support that I will get, from other members.
Does it usually take this long once a motion is tabled?
Yeah, it can take longer.
Okay.
Because I had one for the craft vendors, and we just finished debating that, and that was on the order paper much longer than this one.
All right.
Has been.
Okay, so basically, and as I said before, don't want to keep you too long because we know that you're having difficulty speaking. But just to reiterate that, you're also going to be speaking with the House Leader, and you expect that this will come up soon. How soon do you think? Do you want to speculate on that?
Well, I'm not too sure because we're coming up into the budget period now, so I don't know how soon. But he's always very. I have to say that he's always very open, and he tries to discussion, and he tries to bring them up as quickly as he possibly can.
Let us hope that we can have this before, we
yes,
get
because
into budget.
It's too important an issue, and too topical an issue, and it affects everybody. It affects everybody, and it is, what currently obtains is unjust and unfair, and you can't shut out the people, the indigenous people of a particular community and country from accessing, these things that are naturally theirs.
We're going to leave it there. Thank you very much, Shahini Robbins. I'm convinced that you're going to be on the case. Thank you, and we'll keep in touch with you on it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Member of Parliament for North East St. Andrew, she tabled a motion in Parliament in November to have this matter debated in Parliament. We're going to be watching this. We're keeping on top of this to see where this goes. As she said, and we agree, this is too important an issue for us to just leave hanging. We, the people, have to get up. We have to face the fact that if we don't move, there will be no justice. The justice that we seek for ourselves, we have to do it collectively. We have to do it as a people, as a nation, understanding that it's a majority of us who are excluded. It's a majority of us who face these levels of injustices. It is a majority of us who are facing the level of oppression that we continue to face in Jamaica. It is a majority of us, and we all look alike when we look in each other's faces. We all look alike. It's a majority of us who suffer at the hands of those, in a lot of cases, who look like the majority of us, but in the interest of the minority among us. Oppression that comes from the laws that would deny us entry to public spaces in the island on which we were enslaved. While we're here, because they are against injustice and they have been occupying Pinnacle, that occupation continues. I appeal to the community, go there and give them your strength. Even if you can't overnight, even if you can't stay there for 3 or 4 or 5 days, go through. The more of us who go through, the better. And then we talk about unity, we talk about black unity for black power. This is what it calls for. This is what we need. So please go there and give them your support. Occupy Pinnacle continues. We can't allow Pinnacle to be taken off the front burner. We're going to keep it there in the public sphere of a center of things, because Pinnacle represents so much more than just the land.
Settable Plus gets rid of all severe pain.
Once again, a really, really beautiful occasion there last week at the Pidatasha Estate. And while the team was out on the road, there was a team here in the studio. And sometimes we tend to not to talk about the team in the studio. But and you see, this is why this production is really a massive production when we go like that. Because we lift the entire Running Africa Forum program and we take it out of a studio. And when we do that, we have to replace that team team with a team of a studio so that we can broadcast. And the team of a studio who kept it going, Shane Clark, thank you, my brother. Overtime. Shane Clark, we don't talk about him enough, but he's always behind the scenes, usually in the studio, holding things. And even on occasions when he wants to go, he'd rather be on location, understanding, though, the bigger picture, and he's usually in the studio. And this year, he was assisted by DJ O'Brien. DJ Brian, thank you very much for holding the studio while we were out on the road. So the team of the studio, Wisdom, our engineer, studio engineer here at IRFM, thank you very much. It's a wonderful team. It's a great team that we have here at IRFM. And when you see us go out like this with Mutu Baruka, myself, Joy, Nicholas, Kishima, and so many other members of the team, the team is much bigger than that, because it also starts throughout the month with all the programs and all the presenters being a part of this. And not that you don't necessarily see all of us at the different events. All of us collectively are part of the bigger team. And this is what really...
The essence of power is the ability to define someone's reality and have them live according to that definition as though it is a definition of their own choosing.
Yes, but I'm far from Uchi. And so usually Samantha is in charge of, for my own transport of renting the vehicle, because that's what I do when I go down there. And then Samantha, know that there are certain vehicles that I don't really like. So this time around, she got a vehicle that I don't like. And so she just told me that the vehicle was there and everything is okay and the tank is full and so on and so forth. And only to find out that it's a Tina. Thank you, Sam. I just thought I'd share that. So thank you, Sam, as usual, ensuring that we have comfortable vehicles to head down. Thank you, Samantha. All right. Thank also to Big A, because, another thing that we're watching here at the Africa Forum is China in Jamaica. And once again, you do know that we tend to look at the example that is out there, and we have an active example that is going on right now. It's very fluid, very active, in motion, and that is China in Africa. China uses similar strategies across the continent of Africa, and we see that unfolding already in Jamaica. And so we've been watching that, and we continue to watch that. But we also want to just say that the examples that we can learn from China in Africa are so many that it's to me, it's mind-boggling that we are making the very same mistakes made in Africa. The mistakes that African governments and African people have stood up and said, if we know now what we knew, if we know then what we know now, we would have done things differently. How come we're not learning from those mistakes? For example, the lifting of visas, visa restrictions for China citizens to come into Jamaica. In Africa, they're talking about that. That was a mistake that they made in a lot of the African countries. And we're making the very same mistake here in terms of how it is done. And we're just going to have to call a spade, and we're not from St. Elizabeth. So why are we making the very same mistake? And where's the reciprocity? Because one of the things that I understand is that, and business people will tell you this if you talk to them closely, that for business people who are going into China, and they don't just go in, Jamaican business people are going into China in a reciprocal kind of thing. I mean, China is doing it, and so we're doing a similar thing. Those business people are facing living hell, and they go through the Chinese embassy here in Jamaica. They're given names, they're given contacts, they're given assistance, but when they go, they meet upon some serious issues. They meet upon Chinese business people, for example, who they have done business with by internet or by phone or through the embassy here. But when and they've been talking English all along, but when they get to China and they recognize that these are not stupid people, these are people who know what they're doing. They're educated and qualified and in their field and know exactly what they want. The Jamaicans I'm talking, that the Chinese businessmen on the ground on the mainland in China pretend as if they no longer understand English, and this is a problem. It's not out in the public sphere as yet, but it's bound to come out because too many Jamaicans are facing difficulties with and you're talking about corruption. You're talking about just downright thievery and lying, and too many Jamaican business people are facing that when they enter into China. That I think is something that the government has to look at, because one of the issues one of the issues that we have to look at when we deal with China, as we are doing now in the case of Africa, because, China and Africa, there's also Africa in China. There's also Jamaica in China that we have to talk about, and we're talking about late Jamaica now in China in this period, because it has been that way for a while. In terms of China and Jamaica and China, we know that, but we're talking about this new resurgence, and this new dynamics. So that it's the mistakes we're talking about, the mistakes that we can learn from, the mistakes that we see happening on the continent of Africa, from Angola to Ghana to Ethiopia to across Central Africa to even Sudan. Where we see these mistakes being made, then why are we copying them? Why are we doing the very same thing? And then we're hearing now this whole thing about coal energy. We have to look at that. One of the dirtiest energies anywhere. We see that in China, and we see the end result of that. So there are just so many questions that we have, and we have to answer these questions before we implement all these new strategies and all these new policies that we're putting in place to facilitate China in Jamaica. So lots of questions to ask. One way we can do this, Chris Alden has an interesting book published by African Arguments, China and Africa. It's a book that we should get. So let's read that, China and Africa by Chris Alden. Start reading that, and that will tell you a lot. But the research you can do too, because it's out there. It's out there. Why are we making the very same mistakes? So let's have these conversations at 2 minutes to 10 o'clock. The Big A is up next with the Sunday Sunshine. I'll see you next week, inshallah, God willing. Take care. Thanks to Simone Brown Keys. To Jody. Thank you very much, Jody. Joy Morgan is not in, but we know you're working the phones. And to all those persons who participated in the program this morning, thank you very much to you who were on Twitter, on Facebook, on the social media, and listening on the 107s.